Hey guys, Bipolar Barbie here. Now, today I wanted to talk about a really interesting topic about advice. Excuse my little cockatoo, I don't know what the hell's going on with that, but we'll just deal with it. So, advice. I think we like to think that we're all experts in advice. We all love our own advice, and I think people we all kind of think that we're I don't know, Gandhi or the Dalai Lama, Buddha, we're a leading scientist in astrophysics. Whatever it is, we think we are experts in giving advice. Not just that, I think as a society, we just honestly feel like it's our right to give advice. It's a thing that we feel compelled to do when someone is struggling, when someone is not getting, I guess, the desired effect or outcome that they are after or that we think they should be getting. Advice is like the go-to. Now, there are a couple of interactions I had today with advice that kind of made me think about it a little bit differently. So I wanted to share that with you guys, and then hopefully as a society we can change the way we look at advice, giving advice, and taking advice. Now, I'm all for asking advice from people, and I must admit I often give advice, but because I know how annoying it is to get given advice, unsolicited advice, which is kind of the worst type of advice you can get, regardless of whether it's good advice or not. 99% of the time it's shit advice. But even if it is good advice, I think the way that we present it just immediately makes people get defensive and kind of really annoyed with that. And I remember asking my dance teacher about something. I asked him if I could get his advice on something, and I asked him the question, and he just turned to me and he said, "Why are you asking me this question?" And I said, "I don't know, I'm just trying to get different people's advice and thoughts on it and that sort of thing." And he said, "There is something that you really need to remember when you are asking advice from people, and that is, do they know you? Do they really, really know you? The things that have happened to you in your life, who you really are as a person, your needs, your inner sort of psyche, and I guess what you are capable of, your strengths and weaknesses. But not only that, have they gone where you want to go?" The only time you should be really taking advice from someone who has honestly taken their own advice, who has actually walked in the footsteps that you roughly have walked in, or on a similar path journey, or they're going in the same direction that you want to go, and they're actually further ahead in that journey. And only then should you take their advice. And I think for me, this really sort of changed my own perspective on the advice that I take from people, and I guess the importance and the weight that I actually put on that advice. And I think one of the most important things about raising awareness about mental illness is that there are many different types of mental illness. There are many different causes of mental illness. There's a lot of psychological, a lot of biological, and that means that there is no two people are alike. We're completely individual. Our mental illness situations are completely different, which means our recovery journeys are going to be just as unique and just as different. And our recovery journeys are constantly changing, constantly evolving. And I think I just wish people who gave me advice would realize that just because I might be in a dark place right now doesn't mean I have found any relief at some point in my life. It's a roller coaster. There's definitely always these different aspects. And again, if you have had anxiety, if you have suffered some form of depression and you feel like you've come out the other side, well, that is great for you. But please don't assume because I haven't come out there yet that I am further behind in my journey. My journey is just very, very different. And I think, guys, it's really important to remember as well that our journeys are not always linear. Our paths diverge off, into wild terrain. Our paths might be similar, but I guess we're always kind of taking these detours. And I don't think we should assume that we're further along than anyone else in, a recovery journey, because I know I have sort of been on this journey with a lot of other people, and sure, we're at different places, we're all at different places at different times, But not one of us, I guess, is kind of further ahead than the other one, because I might be further ahead in like the borderline aspect of my journey than other people. But maybe I'm not further ahead in my premenstrual dysphoric disorder journey. Or maybe physically I'm further ahead in a certain journey. Maybe I'm further behind. Maybe spiritually I'm in a different level. You know, there are so many components to recovery. There's always going to be like a different part to that journey. So I think people who often give advice make this mistake of thinking that they are further ahead in their... And I think that's like one thing as a society we kind of need to understand, that if you take someone's advice with a grain of salt, which I think we all do and we all should, that you need to offer someone the same courtesy. Like, you need to understand that someone else is going to take your advice with a grain of salt. And just because they're not taking your advice doesn't mean that they don't want to get better. And I think just because like you have maybe found some success with a certain thing, then it doesn't mean that other people are going to find the same success, because again, maybe they're coming from a different place, maybe their struggles are actually a little bit different. And I think we just need to understand that it's okay for other people to not accept your advice. And I guess that comes down to the way that you present it as well. So I was thinking about just something completely random. My farrier was talking to me about my horse, and then he said to me, "Can I give you a bit of advice?" And I went, "Yeah, sure." And he gave me some advice. And I went, "Thank you." Like, I had already come to that conclusion, and I was definitely going to do, I already had planned to do what he was advising me to do. But one thing that really stood out today was that he asked me, "Can I give you some advice?" I mean, we're all for giving unsolicited advice, and I guess we just think that that is the way that you give advice. And I know in the past I thought it was really strange when people said that to me, "Hey, can I give you some advice?" And now I kind of think, what a great idea. Because, you know what? It is not your God-given right to, like, give advice. Unsolicited advice is the worst type of advice, whether it be, like, good advice or not. Why don't we ask people's permission if we can give them some advice? And I think in the way that we present that advice, it's almost implying that that person isn't capable of coming up with that kind of idea or that solution on their own. When people say, "Well, you just need to try and be happy. You just need to put a smile on your face." It's like, really? Like, you don't think that was like the first thing that I tried? And I find it a lot. Something else that happened was like a particular comment on some of my stuff. I often get it. You know what? You just need to clean up your diet. You just need to go to a yoga retreat. You just need to meditate. You just need to do this. Let me give you some advice. Get off your medication. And I think a lot of people kind of just have this like weird view. It's like, you know what? I do eat healthy. I do exercise. I do have a really healthy lifestyle. I am out in the sun all of the time. I do meditate. I do practice my mindfulness, my breathing exercises. I do take vitamins. I do yoga. I do have a very spiritual experience. Yes, I have lived with monks in Nepal and Sri Lanka and gone on retreats. Yes, I have had some deep inner soul-searching spiritual connections. And I mean, I have tried a whole range of things. And there are a lot of different things that I use as part of my like complete recovery plan. And I think just because one thing worked for you doesn't mean that's necessarily going to work for me. And there is no like one cure. So assuming that like you have found something that you need to enlighten the whole world about is just like, it's really ridiculous and really stupid. And I think there is enough information out there. There is enough people giving advice on all of these sorts of different topics. It's safe to assume that people are aware of these things. And I think just because I'm depressed, just because I'm like maybe not okay at a particular time, doesn't mean that I'm not doing those things. So it's like, I can be depressed and still doing my yoga every day. I can be unwell and I can still be eating healthy and I can still be exercising. So just because I'm not getting a desired result or a desired outcome that I would like to achieve doesn't mean that I'm doing like nothing about it. I'm probably doing like a huge range of stuff. So I think that's just, I don't know, this is just my little rant about like advice, the way that we give advice, and the way that I guess, you know, understanding that that's just your opinion and you're entitled to your opinion, but people are also entitled to their opinion and to reject your opinion. And I think we just need to be a little bit more mindful in general that people are just doing the best that they can. And there is a difference between owning your story. And I think instead of telling people what to do, because everyone has this inner child, this inner like rebellion against their parents going, do this now, and ordering someone to do something, immediately it's just like, no. I just get this whole attitude about people trying to tell me what to do. And I think presenting it in more of a way like, you know what, guys, this is what I do, because that's how I present it to people. If someone's talking to me about mental health, if someone's presenting me with a problem, I own it. My advice is not directly given. If I do give advice, I ask permission to give that advice, because some people just don't want advice. Some people just want to vent about their problems. They might already have the solution. They might already have thought about the way that they want to do it. All they want to do is vent to someone. So I think you need to ask permission, because I think giving advice is a really intrusive thing to do. And I think just presenting it in a much less aggressive way. What I would say to someone who's trying to communicate something to me about mental health is I would be like, well, you know what? When I'm depressed, this is what I do, and this is what I have found relief with. I have found that medication is really helpful. I have also found that these other things are helpful. So in that way, it's not advice. You're not telling someone what to do. You're just owning your own experience, so that they, you know, can get to know you as a person and your story. And if they can relate to it, then, you know, maybe they might choose to go down the same path. And if they go, oh, wow, really? So, okay, so medication worked for you. What kind of medication do you take? Then it becomes a conversation rather than like an order. So I think, guys, like, I don't know. I'd love to get your thoughts on, like, advice. Put it down in the comments below, because advice really frustrates the shit out of me. And please, please, for the love of, like, every single person in this world, I guess just stop assuming that because someone is unwell, because they're not okay at the moment, that because their life is a mess, that they have not tried the things that you have tried. Because we all like to think that we're smart, but guess what, guys? As a whole, we're really goddamn stupid. And I just think, like, thinking that you are superior to other people in the way that you give advice undermines the fact that, you know, I'm an intelligent person. I've done my research. I've explored a lot of different options. So sitting there and presenting your advice in a way that tells me that, you know what, you're stupid because the answer is so simple, this is just what you need to do, I think just annoys the shit out of me. And I wish people would really stop it, but that is society. That is the way that people deal with the world. And I guess ain't nothing you can do about it, but be the change that you want to see in the world. See how you go. You might get a better response if you're trying to help someone with a mental illness, or a friend that's in need. It shows, I guess, a level of empathy. It shows you as like a mutual, a partner, not like a superior, because I think at some level we all kind of reject authority, and advice is often people trying to state their own authority, often on subjects that they literally have no expertise in. I mean, even my psychiatrist, right, who's probably one of the only people I would take advice from as far as like medication or something like that is concerned, unless it's one of my other doctors or one of my other mental health professionals that I work with who have had years and years of experience and training in that situation. Even them, I kind of make up my own mind. I really do. I do my own research. I never, take one person's word for it. But certainly someone else, I would really just I would not take someone else's advice like it's gospel. And I think don't even take my advice, you know what I mean? Like, think about it. If you relate to it, then use what I'm saying as a starting point. This is my story. This is what's worked for me. I'm not trying to say that the same thing will work for you guys. I'm not preaching that this is the way that you go about your recovery. All I'm saying is that this is my way. And I really hope that you guys can learn something from that. If you have, please put it in the comments below, because I would really love to know, guys. All the best with your recovery journey, and learn to trust your own intuition. Take your own advice.